This week we are going to talk about Black Panther. And yes, it's true. He was almost named Coal Tiger, which is just a terrible, terrible name. So the legend goes that Stan Lee thought to himself, oh geez, how come we don't have any black superheroes? That's my best Stan Lee impersonation. And he went to Jack Kirby and said, make one. And the rest is history. Black Panther, not meant to be affiliated with the Black Panther Party, but of course, as luck would have it, they both originated in 1966. He first appeared in Fantastic Four number 52 as a villain of all things, very briefly. He lures Reed Richards and crew to Wakanda by dazzling them with advanced technology, and then he proceeds to kick their collective asses until Wyatt Wingfoot, who was Johnny Storm's roommate and non-stereotypical Native American character, pretty awesome guy, convinces them to stop getting their asses kicked. A truce is reached, and T'Challa, Black Panther's real name, enlists the Fantastic Four to help him fight Ulysses Klaue and stop the plundering of vibranium from Wakanda. So after several Fantastic Four appearances, Black Panther joined the Avengers before getting his own comic, sort of, which was called Jungle Action. And there would later be a self-titled comic, but none of the Black Panther platforms were really big sellers. In this way, Black Panther is similar to Iron Man in that his cinematic popularity greatly exceeds his comic profile. So although written by two white dudes, Black Panther channels some of the central ideas of Afrofuturism, which run counter to the standard Eurocentric narrative of deep, dark Africa full of savages who need to be saved, literally and religiously, and elevated through colonization. Or colonialism, whatever. Afrofuturism positions Africa as the cradle of civilization and innovation with unlimited potential, except where white European influence, through genocide and resource plundering, holds it back. So Wakanda is seen as a technological marvel with resources and technology unknown to the rest of the world, while its king T'Challa waffles between keeping his kingdom safe through secrecy or exposing how much it has to offer. Unsurprisingly, Black Panther faces leadership challenges at home due to his frequent absences working with the Avengers, Fantastic Four, and the Defenders. So Eric Killmonger, M'Baku, and White Wolf and other domestic threats are constant reminders that a king needs to always watch his throne. So learning lessons from this, T'Challa settles down, sort of, and he marries Storm. Yes, that's Storm from the X-Men. And later, the mantle of Black Panther is passed to his sister, Shuri, who, although initially deemed unworthy by Bast, the Panther God, tempers her arrogance and proves her worth battling the kingdom's enemies. Shuri would later get her own Claws of the Panther solo series. So those of you who are worried what is going to happen with Black Panther, I think we have a pretty good idea of how this is going to work, and that's a good thing. So in addition to Black Panther, I'd also like to talk about some of the other heroes of color beyond him. So he's perhaps the highest profile hero of color, but there by no means was he the first. And here are some other characters who broke representational ground. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but I'm kind of giving you what I had time to come up with, because as I did the research, I realized there were quite a few forgotten characters here. So first off, we have Lion Man, who appeared in 1947's All-Negro Comics, which was actually written and drawn by African-American artists, which was really a first. Now, the cover is pretty offensive. And once again, this is a thing that was very much of its time in 1947. And then here we have like a later version of Lion Man when the character was revived in the 1970s. We also have Waku, who was the Prince of the Bantu, and he debuted in Atlas Comics, and that was Marvel before it was Marvel, 1954 publication. Waku, Prince of the Bantu, debuted in Atlas Comics, and this was Marvel before it was Marvel, 1954 publication, Jungle Tales. And then we also had Lobo, who was the first African-American character with his own title in 1965. Now, he was a Western character. He was by no means a superhero, but, he's still a Western hero. Think of him as like, an early version of the Mandalorian or something like that. And then we have the Falcon, who became Captain America's partner in 1969. And then he actually became Captain America in 2014. And we have one picture here that has Captain America, Falcon, and Black Panther. Awesome. We also have Jon Stewart, who took over the Green Lantern ring in 1971, and he became DC's first African-American starring character. We also have Luke Cage, a.k.a. Power Man. A lot of people knew him in the 70s. He arrived during the blaxploitation era in 1972, followed closely by Misty Knight in 1975. We also have Brother Voodoo. He's one of my all-time favorite characters. He appeared in Strange Tales in 1973, and he later retrieved Luke Cage's soul. He was always doing things like that. Then we have Blade, who showed up in the Tomb of Dracula in 1973, and he was the first successful Marvel movie hero in 1998. That was the first big Marvel film, was Blade. Unfortunately, that trilogy petered out. There was talks that Wesley Snipes was actually going to become Black Panther too, but he forgot to pay his taxes. True story. And then X-Woman Storm made her first appearance in 1975 in the X-Men. We also have Bumblebee, who became the first female black superhero at DC, which he joined the Teen Titans right after attacking them in 1976. James Rhodey Rhodes took over for Tony Stark as Iron Man in 1983 when Tony started hitting the sauce again and needed to take a break. And he was later given his own armor and he became War Machine. And from my childhood, this is one of the first comics I actually remember ever reading, was when Rhodey took over for Tony Stark. In fact, I was always convinced that Rhodey was Iron Man. I found out later that he wasn't. I was very confused by this. And then, of course, we can't forget Miles Morales, who we encountered in Module 7, who became one of the Spider-Men. So the notes for the film. So it came out in 2018 to huge box office success. It was a true event. Directed by Ryan Coogler, who also directed Fruitvale Station and Creed. And, of course, brought along Michael B. Jordan, who is his kind of his muse in a lot of ways. It was written by Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole. So this is the 18th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yes, 18th. The character of Black Panther was introduced in Captain America Civil War, which took care of a lot of the origin part of the story. But with the exception of the closing shots, that film didn't give us much of a glimpse of the wonders of Wakanda. So this film rectifies that purposeful omission with a vengeance. It also provides continuity with the rest of the MCU by including two of its most annoying characters, Everett Ross and Ulysses Klaue, who are consequently the only white characters in the film, with one tiny exception from a post-credit scene that I'm not going to mention because I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen it yet. So comic origin. So a lot of the broad strokes of the story come from the early issues in each Black Panther run. Since it was never a popular comic, it was restarted numerous times with a slightly retconned version of the same backstory. A lot of the major characters can be traced to specific issues. So Ulysses Klaue was introduced in Fantastic Four number 53, which also covered much of the technology and history of Wakanda. M'Baku, the Ape-Man, first appeared in Avengers number 62. And Eric Killmonger was introduced in Jungle Action number 6. The Dora Milaje first appeared in Black Panther Volume 3, number 1. And T'Challa's sister Shuri first appeared in Black Panther Volume 4, number 2. So our synopsis. After the death of King T'Chaka in Civil War, his son T'Challa must face all challengers to assume the throne of Wakanda and decide whether or not to engage with the rest of the world. But his hand will be forced by an outsider with ties to the kingdom. Once again, hardly any spoilers.